Hi everyone and welcome back to the garden. This video talks about the Mediterranean style walkway that I've put into the garden, and this links the patio area to my hot tub and summer house area. And there's a few design points I'd like to make about this. So we have a meandering path that basically curves through the space, and this gives a sense of journey, and it just makes the path a little bit more interesting compared to a straight path. The other thing to note that makes this the Mediterranean style is these lovely Italian cypress trees. Now these were put in about a metre tall, approximately about 6-7 years ago. They've grown really well. They require minimal amounts of care. So I just gently hedge cut them a few times a year just to keep them nice and trimmed, and they naturally grow very tall and thin, and you'll see these quite often in Italy and nearly always planted in rows, creating a kind of avenue. Now this particular part of the garden gets a huge amount of sun and heat later on in the afternoon. So a lot of the plants that are on this side of the garden need to be able to take a lot of heat and be pretty drought tolerant. Now I do have some drip irrigation in the actual garden, and I do have a sprinkler in the lawn at the top here, so it does water some areas. Now just down on the left there is some gunnera growing, and because it's a hot and dry area, I've had to create a swamp type pond in there to help sustain the growth of that plant. So this is the swamp pond area, and this is just purely a rubber liner that's been put in, and I've made like a very natural looking pond with some logs kind of around the edge, and it's got some sort of sand as its main kind of thing inside to line it. Originally the gunnera was planted here, but it used to get very dry because of the heat in the afternoon here, and so essentially the pond was created in order to sustain this particular plant in the section. Now over here we have a tetrapanax, and these generally grow as kind of almost like a medium-sized tree eventually. They have huge leaves, and this one's doing quite well here. It is protected overhead from a sycamore tree, so that protects it a little bit in the winter. But it's got these amazing leaves that look super tropical. And a little bit further up here, it has been paired with some miscanthus grass in there, and there's some ferns underneath there. Sorry about the shadow there. So as we go down here, you can really see the columns of the Italian cypress trees. Now this mimics the kind of Roman columns, and which would be along a walkway, so it gives the actual area a real sense of grandeur, and it almost makes it quite sculptural. The other plants in this area, so on the right hand side of the screen there, you'll see the yuccas and the phormiums, and they are essentially the back of the arid bed. So it just forms a kind of wall of planting along the back there, which also creates a nicer feeling when you walk down the walkway, that it's more enclosed. So I do use quite a lot of smaller plants in this area. So there's some great ground cover. There's some Virginia, which classic kind of elephant ear type plant. You can see the decent leaves on them there. And there's various grasses as well. And in the background, there's some more kind of shrubs. You've got Portuguese laurel and smoke bushes, which give nice contrast. There's some pretty purple veronica, which just seeds around in the area, and yeah, essentially gives a little bit of colour to this area. So when you're standing on the patio area, you can really see the columns that line this walkway. The trees are really decent size now. They are probably about 40 centimetres across and probably about nearly, I'd say, 2.5, 3 metres tall. So it is the maximum height that I'm going to grow these to, and as I say, I will hedge cut them back when needed. So concentrating again on the actual walkway, you can see it's a really nice curve. It curves up towards the cabin, and it has been lined with some metal ever edge. So it's a steel edging that you clip together, and you can paint it as well, and that creates a nice edge. Now you could have this as a sort of forest bark walkway, you could gravel it. There's lots of other options you can do with it, but yeah, the good thing is because it's not straight, it really kind of hides what's around the corner, and it entices you to come and explore the space there. And here we have the view from inside the cabin. So this is the hot tub area, and you'll see at the top here there is a kind of wider area of lawn with a little seating area there so that you can enjoy the view across the rest of the garden. So you can see there is some gaps in amongst the plants so that you can see through at points, but it's not fully open on there either. You'll see centre to the frame there, that's the Butiagrus earthpatha palm, which is a very rare palm, and that will also give height up into this section between these two Italian cypresses. And this is another view from the arid section, but you can really see those Italian cypress trees and how they give height and interest to the space. It certainly would look quite different without them on there. Now, a lot of the plants that I discussed on that walkway, I'd say nearly all of them are hardy. There's just the tetrapanax, which I would probably just wrap the trunk on, and sometimes I will throw a large pot over the gunnera just to protect it during winter. But all the other plants that are there basically stay there all winter, and they survive really well. Anything that requires a little bit more moisture, I've also added some swell gel, which is a product where you basically dig it into the soil. It's like these little crystals, and they absorb something like 800 times the amount of moisture on there as well. So they're very good. They're actually good for pots as well. Thoroughly recommend them. But ultimately, if you've got a Mediterranean style kind of bed, then you need to go for plants that generally like the heat. Mine is a little bit of a combo of a few things really, but I think it works really well on there, and I'm really glad that I kept these trees from the original cottage garden that I created a few years ago. Another thing to mention about the space is there is a gentle incline that moves up the garden, and obviously with the curvature of that path, that really makes it even more interesting on there. Another thing to note is that additional plants that you could use in this space. So there is actually the Mediterranean fan palm, which is a real kind of classic that would go well in this scenario. Likes quite a lot of heat and everything, and will take the dryness of this particular area. You could also use herbs, mixed herbs in there. Things like catmint, which has got fantastic smell to it, and it's got a purple flower not that dissimilar from the Veronica there. So that is essentially the Mediterranean style walkway. So you can use that to create an area that goes between two areas, and I really like the theming of it. And I must say that when we have a lot of people over to stay, and that everyone comments on the Italian cypresses and how amazing they look, and I think the scale of them as well, they're all in proportion with the rest of the garden, and it adds a really nice feature on that one. Hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Please don't forget to have a little look at my other videos. I have done quite a few on the different zones within the garden. So there is things like the fire pit sort of jungle clearing area that I've done. There's the little there's the arid section. There's a little courtyard garden which shows what you can achieve with a very small space on there. So please check those ones out. And don't forget to click the like button, and if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, that'd be great. It's completely free, and it means that you get to see a lot of the other videos that will be coming up in the future. So thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.